You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
It's the week before Halloween, Taylor. How you feeling?
Where does the time go? I feel like I'm in some sort of weird time loop where Halloween feels so far away and yet so close. Like I don't have a very good grasp of time, almost as if I'm living in my own horror movie. Yeah, so excited. On the 27th, we're taking George to a trunk or treat in our little township that we live in. So they're putting something on at the agricultural society for the country kids, because a lot of, well, in our township there are like subdivisions, but where a lot of kids also live on like farms. So this is a nice alternative to kids who like have to walk 10 minutes in between houses if they want to trick or treat in their neighborhoods. Then we'll take George like actually into town, into Kingston, to go trick-or-treating just on like one street where our friends live. So we're gonna give him the full Halloween experience.
Okay.
Cover all our bases.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I definitely I miss aspects of that, you know? Mainly being able to eat candy without really any consequences.
Well, Dan was like, well, we're only gonna go to like a couple trunks, right? So for people who don't have kids or who aren't familiar with the trunk or treat format, because this didn't really exist when we grew up, Mike. Not that I'm aware of.
No.
So it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A bunch of cars will park in like a parking lot or a field or whatever, what have you. And the kids go car to car or truck to truck, trunk to trunk, so to speak. And they do their trick-or-treating there. I think it's, for us, like where we live, it makes a lot of sense just again, like geographically, like a lot of the kids who are in the country, it would be logistically impossible to trick or treat on Halloween. But I think other communities have adopted it because of helicopter parents. And it feels like safer than doing regular trick-or-treating, but we're not doing it for like a safety point of view. We're just doing it so that George can, enjoy the holiday. But so Dan was like, he'll only go to like a couple cars, right? We'll only be there a couple minutes. And I said, excuse me, why would we not take full advantage for ourselves? So that we, like, he's not going to eat any of the candy. We might as well go to all the cars so that we have extra candy.
You eat the candy yourself. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, right? Like he's 2. He's going to be 2. We're going to give him like one mini chocolate bar. That's it. Yeah. So, there is something magical, especially when I would say like a mild Halloween, like not the Halloweens where there's snow or rain, but like when you have to wear like a jacket and it's dark out and there's magic in Halloween. It's nice. So we always celebrated Halloween one way or the other before George, and now it's just nice to really be able to lean into the trick-or-treating side of things.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy a bunch of candy and watch a bunch of horror movies. Does that really like what I described? Is that really different than my normal activity? No.
No, but less dip, more chocolate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I would say I'm gonna be making a trade out of dip for like gummy bears or something.
But you live in a house. Do you anticipate kids knocking on your door? Are you gonna turn the lights off?
Was I here last Halloween? I'm trying to remember when I moved. Yeah, I guess there wasn't a lot going on last Halloween. I can't remember if I was here or not.
Right.
I can't. It's so weird. I just can't remember. So I don't know.
So the question is, are you going to have a box just in case, or are you going to be a curmudgeon?
Right.
Okay, 100%. You'll answer the door if people knock.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if someone knocks, I'll answer the door and I'll have some candy. Will I also partake? Yeah. That's, one for them, one for me. That's
I was just going to say, one for them, 2 for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I will definitely have stuff ready to go. because
Got it.
I am in a house and I am in a neighborhood. Yeah, I just can't remember what I did last year. Like, I have no idea.
Maybe you were at someone
Um,
else's house. I
I
think you
might
were
have not
already
been
living.
here.
Oh,
I was living here, yeah, but I might not have been physically
yeah.
here that night for whatever reason. Yeah,
There you have it. So that's exciting. And I won't really be watching horror movies because by the time George is done trick or treating, it's time for bed. But we are watching a horror movie for next week, Mike.
we are. Yeah, and we invite our listeners to watch along with us as we watch The Haunting of Julia, uh, which I believe it was like the 70s. Is this when this movie came out?
1977.
1977. And this comes from a recommendation from Matt Salton, who was a guest on Screening in Kingston a million times. I don't know how many times, but a lot. And he'll be joining us on the show next week for our special Halloween episode that comes out right on Halloween. We'll review The Haunting of Julia, and we're each going to give a top 5 list of our favorite horror, scary, Halloweeny movies.
So, but these are movies that like actually scared us, right? Like not
That's the
just
idea. That's the
yeah,
idea
okay.
that you actually had some sort of a scary reaction to some
Right.
sort of element of it. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we're each there's 3 of us on the show, so we'll each give a top 5 that gives 15 movies, and that should be enough for people.
Yeah, and that's your viewing for the next, 15 weeks or whatever, depending on how you want to parse it out.
Um, and also, before we move any further in the show, I really want to talk about Netflix Canada.
Our gripe with them.
I'm so angry about this. I was all ready to watch Woman of the Hour. We
They
talked
made
about
us
it last week.
Mike, they made us liars.
Yes, and I had all the promotion ready to go to promote it until I got a text from you that said it's not on Netflix. I watched this other movie,
Yeah.
and I was like, "There's like Taylor missed it. Taylor's having a parent moment. There's no way it's not there. All I've been watching is advertising for this thing for the past couple of weeks with Netflix, this date on it. It's not available in Canada. It's available in the US and probably other places, but it's not in. They didn't buy the Canadian distribution rights to this movie.
It makes no sense. So, is it ever coming to our Netflix?
I don't think so.
To rent it?
I think we're gonna have to rent it.
Okay.
And I think it's also probably gonna be like available eventually in theaters in Canada. Like, I just don't think they didn't buy the Canadian distribution rights or something.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm kind of confused because is this not a Netflix original movie?
Yes, it is.
So shouldn't it be on every Netflix because it's their movie?
Yes, it should. That's what I don't understand. How?
Isn't the whole point of you making your own movies that you've skipped the distribution? They like took the middleman out.
That would be like us making an episode of You Had Me at Skip It and only releasing it in the US.
Yeah, and just only on American Spotify, not Canadian Spotify.
Not Canadian Spotify, but only this one time. All our other episodes are there and all future ones are there, but this one time it will be only one. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. They have no current date listed where it's coming to Canada on Netflix.
No, and when you search it, it says, you know how Netflix does that thing where if you write the full title in the search and they don't have the movie, they go, we don't have Woman of the Hour, but we can recommend you these movies. And so it doesn't even have like a coming soon.
No, because it's never coming here. They according to the thing I read, I don't know how accurate it is, but it said they didn't purchase the Canadian distribution rights to this movie.
Very weird, very strange. So they made me a liar twice over because I said last week, oh well, I'm just gonna keep reviewing like Halloween movies.
Yeah.
And because Woman of the Hour is kind of like a serial killer movie, I thought, okay, that fits the bill. Well, wah wah, they didn't have it, so I had to review a comedy.
Is it okay? I wasn't sure what Brothers was.
It's a comedy. It's like kind of like a comedy caper.
Okay.
Genre movie, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's basically you've got a comedy. I was able to watch a horror movie, but I mean it's a funny story because I was waiting to watch this Speak No Evil movie because I saw trailers for it. It looked kind of interesting, and I saw, oh, it's on Amazon, and I'll watch it. In about 3 minutes, I realized I was watching a different version of Speak No
Yes,
Evil.
in a different language.
Well, yes, but there's English too. Like there's quite a bit of different languages in this particular
But is
movie.
it not? Is
Dutch.
it not?
It's
Oh, yeah.
Dutch.
I was gonna say I was gonna say Danish, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a foreign language
It,
movie.
it technically is, but there's a lot of English spoken in it
Okay,
as well, which makes the remake even more confusing. Um,
right.
because a lot of it's in English, and there are some subtitles, but not a whole lot. And I it was released in 2022,
Yeah,
and this movie came out in 2020. This must be the quickest turnaround for a remake in the history of film. That Speak No
pretty
Evil came out in 2022, and now there's a remake in 2024.
pretty close turnaround time. I'm sure if you like really looked, Mike, you could probably find like a year turnaround time. But this
That's
was like
shocking to me.
this would have been like the movie came out in 22, and then they immediately greenlit the English
Yeah,
make because like it takes most movies take longer than 2 years to make.
that's right.
So very fascinating. I'm looking forward to this review. This was one of those movies that I read the synopsis for, the Dutch one,
Yeah,
because it had a lot of buzz in 2022 in the horror movie community. And so I thought I better read this plot synopsis because I'm never gonna watch this movie. And no spoilers, but I'm glad I read the plot synopsis, and I probably will never see this movie based on the what happens in this
yeah, and I mean, I'm not
in
gonna,
this
I'm,
movie.
I'm not gonna give spoilers either, because I also think if you're interested in watching this kind of movie, I feel like what happens in the movie is just important to the viewing
Yeah, you want
experience.
the reveal or whatever.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it like a reveal as much of a we learn information, like
Right.
that kind of thing. But I will say the 2024 version is tamer, we'll call it, in its sort of execution of everything. They did make some changes
They
that were
normally do. I find that when there's English adaptations of European movies, horror or not, I find that they always make them a little more meek and mild
that's right.
compared to
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's still, I would say the like the general tone of what's there is there, but they definitely, if you watch just the 2024 version, you definitely walk away feeling like not the same way you do
right.
as the
It's
first one.
toned
So
down.
that's right, yeah, and I feel like that will work for a lot of people in that way. So
So do you want to just go into your review since we've kind of teased it?
sure, might as well. So Speak No Evil, 2024 and 2022, exact same plot.
A
Uh,
twofer.
it basically revolves around this traveling family, the husband, wife, daughter, who meet up with this other family who have a son, kind of around ish the same age as the daughter, and they like hit it off in their travels on vacation, and they invite the family back to stay with them for a few days in their remote cottage. And if you've seen the trailers, you know that it probably works out pretty bad.
It goes awry very quickly.
Yeah, and this movie is, I would describe this movie as like quite psychological, but not in the way that it was filmed or shot or anything. Like it's actually like done pretty much like as plain, not plain in like a bad way, but as like typical movies you could think. Like it's just shot in that way, but all the psychological elements of it are in what you're being shown, especially in the Dutch version. In the 2022 version, it's very like, I mean, some maybe a tiny little bit of body horror, but it really like psychologically, like
It's
it does
tense,
a number,
right?
yeah, very tense, does a number on you, especially as you go throughout the movie. And I feel like the 2024 version did a really good job of building tension, like really, really, really good. James McAvoy, who plays the kind of guy who invites the family back, he's a
The
little off.
host.
Yeah, the host. He's a little he's a little off from the beginning. Like it starts out very small, where he'll make like little side comments or kind of things that you could interpret one way or another. This person could be socially awkward. It could mean nothing, or he could be creepy and weird. Turns out he's creepy and weird. And then it just, the way they escalate in the 2024 version was really, really well done. I felt more so in that version that it was a slow build to kind of the wacky, crazy ending.
Right.
Which, this is the thing. I'm not going to say what it is. The ending of the 2022 movie, or the last half hour, if I'm comparing the last half hours of both films, the 2022 version almost jumps the shark for me, where it gets like a little ridiculous. And the 2024 version toned it down a bit, but because of the tone and nature of the rest of the movie, it seemed a little out of place. I'm like, oh, we're doing this now. Like it felt like, oh, we just took a turn that I kind of wasn't sort of expecting, but only because that would be ridiculous. And that's what they do with it, which was fascinating in a way, but it almost takes away some of the great work that was done in the first hour of the movie. We're building tension, building this kind of interesting atmosphere, and the latter half of the remake is almost too schlocky and standard and kind of like what we've seen before, if that makes
So
sense.
you think they should have maybe kept the original ending? Like
They couldn't have. They couldn't have, though. Not in the way you're talking about, because I don't think audiences would accept it.
Right. Okay. So
I think the original version was too intense with what they did to translate
for North
it to
American
this.
audiences.
Yeah, that's right. For like
Got
a Hollywood kind of movie, exactly.
Yeah. Got it. So again, like I don't want to be too mysterious, but I also don't want to give anything away. But like,
yeah, I don't want to give anything away in this.
Anyways, maybe people can watch it and they can write in why I don't want to watch it. But I'm sure you can guess why, Mike.
Right.
I've seen the movies.
I can guess why.
I'm a parent.
Yes, because there is a lot to do with the child, the son. There's a lot to do with him, and that's a big plot point throughout, as well as the daughter. And again, I think for what is the number one purpose of a horror movie? Right? It's to scare you.
Sure.
At the end of the day, I think both movies did a pretty good job of doing that, but not in a jump scare way.
Yeah.
In a tension building, your heart's kind of pounding, what's going to happen next, fearing for the lives of the characters, that kind of thing. There's one other main difference, though, between the two movies that really bothered me. So, in the original movie, the couple and their kid who's traveling, they kind of make logical, reasonable decisions. Like it's less of a slow build in that movie that something weird is going on. Like at the beginning, it feels like this is very much a normal couple that they just met. Like nothing feels weird or out of place. Whereas in the other movie, they go out of their way to show you that like there's something off right off the bat.
Right.
I felt strongly that what they did with the mother and father in the remake really made me think like everyone I know is a smarter human being than these two people.
I think that's the fault of a North American adaptation, though. Like, I think that's like when I watch European movies, they give the audience much more credit.
Right.
I think. Whereas like in North America, they like, we have to show that the McAvoy character is crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I think that in European movies, it's a little bit more show, don't tell, maybe.
For anyone who saw the trailers, in the trailers, there are little moments where James McAvoy like comments, like he like disciplines his son or even disciplines his wife about commenting about other children, and like he's things like that like are a little awkward, but like a human being does do those things. Like it does happen. The original movie had that happening for longer, where it didn't like really do a turn until later in the movie. Maybe halfway through, you got your first thing of like, oh, that's weird. Like you understand why they'd be talking themselves into staying, because everything that's happened so far isn't that bad.
Yeah.
right? And then
It's within the
in
reasonable realm of human behavior.
yeah, like, oh, he's weird. He has a weird relationship with his wife. Is he disciplines his kids. We don't. Like, it's a difference in parenting, but it's not necessarily like he hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
But in the 2024 movie, they really amp up the creep.
Right.
And I feel like there were too many times where, especially the father character, is like telling his wife, like, no, there's like nothing's wrong, it's fine, I don't know what you're talking
You're
about. And
overreacting.
yeah, and you're sitting here going, you're so stupid. Like, that's the like there's something huge is going on. This is a massive issue. And I feel like that lessened the experience a bit for me, because when characters act completely out of the realm of human behavior, that's when it takes the horror out of it for me. I'm not afraid of things that don't exist. I'm afraid of things that could potentially exist, regardless of how you play it. Like, make it real enough. I don't believe the Conjuring movies were real, but they made them feel real by building this really
Yeah.
interesting, cool world. This movie almost did it. It did it once in 2022, and then this one, it like was doing it. But I feel like they too many times they didn't get creative enough in being like, let's come up with real reasons why the father or mother would think it's fine to stay.
Yeah.
Because too late did they kind of come to realizations that we have to get out of here. And it's like, you're like an hour late. I would have been gone already. And I think that's something that was not done well in this remake.
I know I talked about The Visit a lot recently. I don't know. It's been on my mind. But like a good example of how a North American movie where I think they do that well is that like the grandparents in The Visit are acting very weird, almost off the hop. But there's lots of reasons built into the script as to why they would be acting weird. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like it makes sense that the kids are like, and that's what's kind of like more scary because you're like, is there something going on more? You know, yeah, anyways. So I think that's an example of a very effective, like
Sure.
things are weird, but it makes sense in the context of the movie why people are sticking it out, so to
Yeah.
speak.
You also, I think, when you have child characters, I think you can forgive some things.
Sure.
Like, as a kid, you might not know the difference between really weird behavior and like somewhat normal or acceptable behavior. And I feel like as within this particular movie, the adults, I don't want to give that benefit of the doubt
No,
to.
that again, that makes sense. That like
Yeah.
the kids are a device in The Visit, whereas in this one, like it was this schlocky. From what you're describing, I just think it's like classic Hollywood remake
Yes.
syndrome.
And I want to be clear here. I did enjoy both of these movies. It's not like I
Sure.
didn't like them. It's just in comparing the two, one did certain things a little bit better than the other one. I cannot fault the performances in these movies. Like, I already mentioned him, like James McAvoy knocks it out of the park. I mean, he's phenomenal in the movie. The whole cast of the 2024 version are excellent. Like, it was very well cast, very well put together. And I still think at the end of the day, when I'm watching a horror movie, I have that simple idea of you've got to scare me in some capacity. And that can be with just building tension and not really jump scares, but what's going to happen? Are the
That
characters in danger?
eerie feeling.
That's
Like
right. And this
the
movie, it is it the scariest movie of all time? No. Is it particularly frightening? I would say no, but it does build tension very, very well. And I think if you're looking for kind of a good Halloween movie, something to scare you, but isn't like jump scares. Like, I know a lot of people don't like jump scares. This kind of fits that bill, because I still think you'll get your heart pumping. And I still think if you like horror movies, you'll enjoy the ride of this movie. But I definitely think, I don't know without giving spoilers away, but like, there's certain things some people may be sensitive to, and I feel like the 2024 version is just the better one to watch if you're super squeamish, or if you have kind of certain things you don't like to see in movies, and if you're concerned at all about what the more intense version of. I would actually watch the 2024 one then first, and if that one you're like, oh, totally fine, no problem, then you might be good for the other one. But if that one is too much for you, then the 2022 version amps it up even more so. So I think that's just an important thing to keep in mind.
it's a very nuanced review there you for you, Mike. That's very
Well,
good. Thank
yeah,
you for that. But
they're nuanced.
ultimately, if you had to pick between the two, so that I liked your very, conservative approach. If you're a scaredy cat, start with 2024 and work your way up to 2022. But if you personally, if you could only pick one, which one would it be?
It would be the 2022 version
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
I'm less concerned with certain visuals and
Subject
certain
matter.
subject matter, because to just my own sensibilities of what I like in movies and what I what matters to me in movies. So I think the 2022 version checks all the boxes for everything. The 2024 version checks many of them, but is just a Hollywood pulled back version. Let's just
Yeah.
call it that. So if I had to pick between the two, I would say 2022, but I'm giving them both a see it because I do
Ooh.
think in terms of the film, they're close, they're pretty good. I've seen a lot of terrible horror movies, and this is not one of those. Like it belongs in the pantheon of it's a good time. You'll enjoy it. It's not cheesy or dumb or weird or whatever. It's pretty good and pretty solid.
Excellent. Okay. Shall I give my review, which is like a complete tonal whiplash compared to what you
Yeah, I mean, I didn't
reviewed?
know what this movie was. There's a lot of movies called Brothers as well. I've
Yes.
learned, so I didn't know what this movie was. So yeah,
This
give,
is,
give,
I
give us your review.
think, I'm fairly certain this is an Amazon original, but it's from MGM. I think they acquired MGM this year. So it's one of those movies where maybe it would have been in theaters before the Amazon acquisition, but I'm not sure the provenance of this movie. But it is an Amazon original, so you can watch it if you have an Amazon Prime account for free. And it stars Peter Dinklage,
Dinklage,
and
yeah,
yep, and Josh Brolin, and they play brothers. They are twin.
obviously.
Yep, they are the brothers mentioned in the title, and they're actually twins. And they don't. It's 2024, so I'll say that they're not playing the the fact that they're twins as like comedic relief, whereas like
Oh, I
you
see.
think of like Danny DeVito and Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger and
that's what I was
twins,
thinking of.
like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like I don't that's it's just like so that's
they're
just
twins.
like a,
Yeah.
a heads up. You'd think maybe with that like in a way, I guess it's not stunt casting because but anyways,
No, because
it's
they're both like established good
yes,
actors. Like it makes
exactly.
it
Yeah.
makes sense.
But I guess why I mentioned that is because comedies from like maybe 10 years ago, that would be the main
Well,
comedic
that would be the premise.
point,
Yeah,
right?
that would be
Like,
it. Yeah.
oh, they're so different and they're twins. So the premise of the movie is that they grow up in a pretty tumultuous household where like crime is like the norm. When they're I'm not sure their exact ages, but their mom does like a jewel heist and then flees to Mexico, and then they essentially sort of in a montage raise each other while also going on a crime spree. And then at the very beginning of the movie, they're doing their quote unquote last, this is going to be the last one. Peter Dinklage's character gets arrested, Josh Brolin's character escapes, and we know that Josh Brolin never like he is not the brother that wants to commit the crimes. Peter Dinklage does. So Josh Brolin's character uses the opportunity to kind of like restart his life, and then Peter Dinklage gets out of prison. So that's kind of like the lead up to the beginning of the movie. All of this happens like fairly quickly in the first couple of minutes. And the premise of the movie is that Peter Dinklage is trying to get Josh Brolin's character to help him do sort of, again, quote unquote, one last heist that's
Mm.
like set them up for life. Um, Brendan Fraser is weirdly in this movie.
What?
Glenn Close is in this movie. Glenn Close plays their mom when she's like older, like in the present timeline. And then Brendan Fraser's character is a crooked police, not police, a crooked prison guard and
Mm,
is kind of chasing them while they are trying to kind of pull off this final heist. So it's
right.
pretty like standard when I said at the top of the hour, like caper crime comedy. It's like a pretty standard. It also kind of has that like buddy comedy feel, but the brothers are definitely like at odds with each other. Um I have found increasingly that it's hard to review comedies, Mike, and I feel like that's
Because
because
they're funny or not, right?
yes,
Like
yeah,
it's either the movie's either funny for you
yep,
or it isn't, and
yep,
there's no in the middle. Like
yeah,
what? How much nuance can there be in that, right?
exactly. So I thought this movie had some good jokes. I wouldn't say I was like laugh out loud, barrel laughing or anything. There was also a couple jokes that I felt were like again, I've last couple of comedies I've reviewed, I've said this where like I understand that that's supposed to be a joke. You know what
Right.
I mean? And I'm like, it's
The
just not
setup
funny.
was there, but it
Yeah.
just didn't land
It
for you.
just
Yeah.
didn't land.
Yeah.
So there was a couple times that happened. I thought that Josh Brolin and Peter Dinklage had very good chemistry. I think that the acting, I'm not going to fault them for the acting at all. I'm not even going to fault really the direction. Again, it's just like some jokes worked and some jokes didn't. And my one critique of acting is that Brendan Fraser was at like 300 right out of the gate. And so I guess that is a fault of directing because Brendan Fraser is able to give a nuanced performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he definitely played a character, whereas like the other, it's a comedy movie, so everyone's playing characters, but he was the most like off the wall, you know what I mean? And like I don't know if I think we've talked about this before, Mike, but like kind of a like acting 101 is that if you
Yeah.
start at 100, there's nowhere to go,
That's
right?
right.
So like
And your director is there to try to ramp you up or bring you down based
exactly.
on what the script needs and the moment needs. And too often do we see movies that we know it's the fault of the director because their number one responsibility of a director is to get a great performance out of their actors. And if it seems like three people, your main three leads are all in three different movies, then that becomes like a big issue. I've seen that happen a lot, and that can really ruin a film.
I just like Brendan Fraser definitely felt like zany. You know what I mean? Like his character
Yeah.
was zany, and everyone
Yeah.
else was like, again, they're playing caricatures in a crime comedy, but everyone else felt more or less grounded. Whereas like
Yeah.
his character just was like, oh, like it was like, I'm gonna get ya. Like that's like it was just like it was a very strange performance. And given that like all of us or a good deal of our listeners, I assume, are more like close to our demographics, have like grown up with Brendan Fraser and we've seen him in
Sure.
a variety of movies. We know like, okay, he can give a good performance.
He can. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
he's been on nominated for an Oscar. Like, hello. Did he not? Did he win the Oscar? He certainly won the Golden Globe, right?
Remember.
For
He
The
won the
Whale?
Golden Globe. I think he won the Golden Globe, but not the Oscar.
Right. But and I know like, oh, just because you win the Oscar doesn't mean you're amazing. But like it is the standard we put our actors at. So it's not like he's a fly by night kind of guy. So this was the movie was about an hour and a half. I found it enjoyable enough. Like it was definitely a movie to just kind of like put on. It was I kind of flip-flopped between Stream It and Airplane It. I'm going to end with Airplane It
Okay.
because I feel like the movie's not remotely memorable. Like I think this is like a movie you'll watch, kill an hour and a half, and then never like,
arrive at your destination and move on with
and
your
you thought
life.
that's fine. I got to Boston and I killed, or like wherever you're going, right?
Yeah.
I got to Halifax and I killed some time. So it's an Airplane It. It's too bad because like I said, there was a really, really good dynamic between Josh Brolin and Peter Dinklage. I don't know if they've acted opposite each other before, but I would be interested to seeing them paired together again. And Glenn
Yeah.
Close, God love her, she's kind of having, I don't want to say, I hate saying, oh, so and so's having a renaissance, but I feel like she's been in a lot of things recently, and she's not afraid to like really go there and just and she gives
Has
it
she
her
ever
all.
stopped though? Like, has she ever really stopped
That's
at?
why I
Like, I
don't.
feel like she's just kind of been always there.
Yeah, just like actively, just slowly acting.
Yeah,
I just feel like there was maybe a gap in her resume, but maybe that's just a blind spot in my own thinking about her. But
yeah,
I can think of 3 movies in like the recent past. So, well, this is the second Glenn Close movie I've reviewed this year, because she was
yeah.
in that horror movie that was on Netflix,
Oh
Deliverance.
yes,
And
yes.
again, that's a movie I feel like she gives it her all. And I'm like, good for
Yeah.
you, Glenn Close. So Airplane It.
Airplane.
That's my review of Brothers.
There you go. Now you've got some, not a headline. Wouldn't really call this a headline. You've got some movie news and topics to discuss. So why don't you dive right into it?
Okay, Mike. I read this week that and I just, unfortunately, I thought I screenshotted the headline, so I don't have the headline in front of me. But all you need to know is that they are making a quote new adaptation of American Psycho.
Okay.
Now, the original American Psycho movie is Chef's Kiss with Christian Bale. Very, very good movie. Even though Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote the book that the movie is based on, did not like the final product. He did not think it portrayed the book very well. Anyways, all that to say, the new filmmakers, and I apologize, I don't know who's attached to the project right now. I don't know like what studio, what director, what writer, but the headline made the point of saying, or like the byline, the subheading made the point of saying, this is not a remake, it is a new adaptation. Let's pause, Mike. We gotta open this up for a conversation, because is not like I think this is such a weird semantics, like such weird doublespeak, because isn't every movie that's based on a book an adaptation? Like, obviously it's not a remake because it's based on a book. But also, who cares if you say it's a remake of a movie? Like, I thought, I read the headline and I thought, that is so weird. Why are they making that point? And like, what does that even mean?
So I guess what they're saying is they are writing a new script based on someone else reading the book and their interpretation of the point of it, and not looking at the old movie script.
Okay,
Right? Like that.
fine.
So there, but yeah, I don't know why you have to declare that. Because that's because they're making a Harry Potter television show that is not a remake of the movies, but is an adaptation of the books. But it amounts to the same thing
Yeah.
because you're just doing the same thing again. Basically, they're just gonna make the movie again.
And like, I guess they want to remind us that like, oh, it's based on original source material, or like it's based on a novel, but like, who cares?
Sure,
But
yeah, like
I
what?
wonder if it's their way of like, I wonder how involved Bret Easton Ellis is, the author, how involved he is in this remake. And maybe that's why, like, because he didn't like the first adaptation, you could say, maybe this is like the studio's point of being like, it's not a remake of the first movie. Brett didn't like it, so
Yeah,
we
I
have
mean
them on board for this one.
that kind of happened with Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Yeah,
where they did the movie, but it was so far in the opposite direction, really, of what Joss Whedon kind of envisioned it to be. Then he got a chance to do a TV show that essentially, like the way they plotted that out, it's kind of like a spiritual sequel, like
yeah,
because it kind of like sort of talks about the actions a little bit of what happened in that movie, but it is very much a quote unquote new adaptation. But like you're just making it again. I guess that's a fancy way of saying we're making American Psycho again.
So weird. Are you do you have any sort of attachment to the book or the movie?
The book, no. I watched the movie and I liked it, and that's about it. I mean, I know it's one of those movies um, that
Movie bros
oh,
like.
yeah, and that's how I watched it. Is many
Yep.
many movie bros like, you gotta watch this,
It's the best movie
and
ever, man.
then I watched it and I went like, oh, it's pretty good, but
It
that was
kind
kind of
of
it.
it kind of gets lumped in with Fight Club. Both like misunderstood movies, I think, because both of them are technically satire. Like the directors intended
Yeah,
them to be satire, and
and
movie
Fight
bros
Club.
watch them. They're
Yeah,
like,
and
"Oh, my
yeah, I
manifesto."
like I liked Fight Club more so. But yes, it definitely falls under that misunderstood category of movies where I think the point was lost on a lot of people. Which again, you can talk about whose fault that is. But I think I like American Psycho, but do I think it's the best movie of all time? No, I think it's a very good movie. Um, am I excited to see a new adaptation of it? Not really. Like, it doesn't.
It
Like, I
isn't. It's
guess,
not. Yeah,
but
it doesn't. It doesn't thrill you. I'm excited.
no. It's not the type of thing that I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I can't wait to see that. It doesn't do that for me. No.
I'm interested. I am interested to see who they're gonna cast. I hope it's not Jacob Lloyd or however you say his name from the Elvis movie. He's in a
Why
lot
would it
now.
be him?
I don't
Why
know.
would
People like him. And
I
like
don't think
he's
that
got that
that's.
like good I think they could yuppify him, he's got that good looks, he's tall. Um yeah, I don't know. Who
I
do
feel like
you
you can find a better actor.
it's
I don't
I'm
know.
trying
I
to
don't know.
think
Yeah, I don't know who's
who
the.
can play a New York 80s yuppie now.
Well,
That's the
you know who'd want to do it, but I don't think it would fit. Austin Butler would be up for it. I don't think that would
he's
work.
up for everything.
He'll do whatever you want him to do. He'll do it.
He'll do whatever accent
He will
is
learn that
required.
accent. Absolutely. He will change his entire persona of who he is to do
You know
whatever
who
role
I
you
could
want.
see Austin Butler playing? I could see him playing the oh my gosh, the 30 Seconds to Mars actor who we are always talk about, who is so weird. He played the
Who?
Joker. You hate him because he mailed that stuff to Margot Robbie when
Oh,
he was in the Suicide Squad.
oh, yeah, you're talking about Jared Leto.
Yes, I could see him. I could see Austin Butler playing Jared Leto's character
Right,
in
right.
that movie. So anyways, this is a fun we'll have to revisit this because to me this is a fun fan cast, but I also have clearly greater attachment to this IP than you do. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like what young, Hollywood star are they gonna cast
Well, who would
for
you pick? Like, do you have a pick? Do
I
you have
don't have
someone?
I don't. That's like I would have to think about it. I think Austin Butler is good for the Jared Leto character, but who would play Patrick Bateman? An iconic character to me. So I would have
Timothy
to think.
Chalamet.
Again, he wants to probably.
He'll want to do it. Absolutely, he'd want to do it.
To me, he looks too young still.
Oh
I
yeah,
saw. I
but he
saw.
wants to do everything. Like that guy is
Yeah,
in
good
everything.
for him. I could also see that Irish actor who's very popular. He was in Saltburn with Jacob, that Jacob character.
Oh, yeah. I can't. But name's escaping me. I know exactly who you're talking about.
I think he has the intensity, but I don't know if he has the
He
look.
he could definitely do it acting wise though. Like
Yeah.
he's quite solid. I can't. What is it with names today?
I know, it's just
can't.
completely he's dating Sabrina Carpenter. That's I am completely He's got ice blue eyes and he's Irish.
Barry Keoghan.
Yeah.
I had to look at
Who's playing
in order to get there. I googled Sabrina Carpenter's boyfriend.
You're welcome.
There.
He's gonna be also for listeners who are not as chronically on the internet as we are, he is probably gonna be most famous for the average moviegoer because he is going to be the Joker in the new Batman movie, or is
Is he?
teased. Is he not?
Is that confirmed he's coming back though? Because I don't know if that's even I because that was like a
Oh.
deleted scene that's not
Oh,
like technically canon.
I
Yeah,
thought that was confirmed and that was the okay.
I don't think
I
it's confirmed.
redact that, Mike. That's
Like they
me
haven't
record
they
backing up.
okay they haven't announced what they're doing with the second movie other than the Penguin will be a predominant villain because of like
Oh, because of
setting
the
him
TV
up
show?
and because of the TV show. Like that they have announced like there's a Batman 2, Robert Pattinson is back, and the Penguin's a predominant villain. But they
Okay.
usually have two. Like that's been a Batman movie
I
thing for a
guess
while. That there's two in there,
he
so it's
will
possible.
I guess he won't be a household name for most people then. He was in Saltburn. That was a very big movie.
And he
And
was in that
he's
Irish movies,
yeah,
that
but
Irish movie that all the other Irish people were in. Yeah.
he's definitely on people's radar. So
I
anyways,
think
I
most people, unfortunately, probably know him as Sabrina Carpenter's boyfriend.
probably. Yep.
Even
So
though he is a very good actor, like that's not
and I'm
like
pretty sure has an Oscar nomination.
I'm pretty sure he has Oscar nomination and will definitely win an Oscar. Like
Yeah.
he's that good, so he shouldn't be just Sabrina Carpenter's boyfriend. But I feel like that's what a lot of people would.
Yeah. I mean, Sabrina Carpenter, beautiful young lady, so good for him. But yes, we'll have to revisit this closer to. I think it's a fun. I always like when we fan cast, and because I am attached to the IP, I think it's a lot of fun to think about. Just like who will play the oh my gosh, another name that I'm blanking on, Sweet Home Alabama. Her
Reese Witherspoon.
yeah, Reese Witherspoon is in the original American Psycho.
Yeah,
Who's gonna play her character?
that's a
Ooh,
good question.
that
Good
was like
question.
that was a stacked cast. What year was that?
Nine in the 90s.
Yeah, anyways, good
98, 99.
good
Was it
cast.
one of those that was it a 1999 movie
Or feels
with
like
all the other
2001.
Americas? Yeah, 2000. This is a
Yep, there you
2000
go.
film.
It was what a great year. That like
Yeah,
1998 to
Willem
2000.
Dafoe
It's
was
yeah.
in it as well.
I think as much as it is kind of a movie bro movie, I think it holds up. I think it's a very good movie.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely like enjoyed it, but I definitely didn't come out of it with the same. I think love and affection as meant the people who described it to me. Very similar to watching like The Godfather, and even when I watched Fight Club for the first time, I'm like, yeah, these are fine.
It's fine.
Like
Nothing to
they're good. Yeah, good movies, but like, is it in my rotation? No, but it's a good movie.
um Mike, do you have anything else you want to talk about? We have a couple minutes if you've sorted fan questions.
You think I've sorted things? Actually, you know what I have started to do with our fan questions is I started to categorize them by
Excellent.
anything that was like similar enough that we can be like, here's the question, and these three people essentially asked it, like, and just
Yeah.
word it. I have started doing that in preparation for a mailbag episode that will eventually get there. So I have done that, but I don't necessarily have any fan questions to bring up. I'm fine with having a short episode this week, Taylor. I mean, it's not gonna.
You
I
had
don't
a
think it's
busy
gonna.
week.
It's been a week. It's going to be a busy week next week. It's going to be a busy week the week after. I think I get a break quarter 3, 2025. I think.
Does that not put us in the spring?
The third quarter.
Yeah.
It's like end of summer. it's basically it. I don't know. I feel like I'll be feeling pretty good by then.
Okay,
By
well,
that point, yeah.
you're just white knuckling it until summer
Right.
2025.
But we can remind people of two quick things before we go. One, our Halloween episode next week,
Yes.
Haunting of Julia. Please watch along. We'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on that, and also get ready for our top 5 lists with guest Matt Salton. And then the other thing to remind people of is if you still want to write in a fan question, you can. Whenever this mailbag episode, I don't think we decided a date, but sometime after Halloween, we're going to do that. So you can go to soul1arts.ca. That's SOLONE arts.ca and just fill out the form that's on the podcast page. Or screeningkingston.com is still activated. You can fill out the form there. Most people have successfully transferred over and clicked that send in a question button, but others have not. So that's fine. If you want to
They're the in corporate speak, since we're talking about quarters in American Psycho, those would be the late adopters.
That's right. But you're totally fine. Doesn't matter how your email gets
We
to
love
us,
you.
so long as you fill out the form, it's fine. Fill out that form. We don't have a Gmail yet, but we will set up an email for this. Just waiting for things to expire. Someone emailed the screening in Kingston at gmail.com, which is fine as well. If you want to email that, we'll get you. But
Is it spam or real?
soul1arts.ca. No, it's a real email. Soul1arts.ca if you want to just fill out the form. There's still time. You can get in our mailbag episode. We haven't done this on the new show yet. All it is a full hour of us answering fan questions. So you can just write in.
Sounds good. All right. Are we wrapping up, Mike?
I guess so. I was. There's nothing else. I think I'm good for this week. Just
You're tapped.
reminders.
You're tapped out.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.